Okay, so today we have a second lesson of wastewater treatment. We talk about physical parameter. Okay, first we talk about flow rate. Okay, in wastewater treatment plant, flow rate is the water flow rate lah, because it's wastewater, so we call water wastewater. Okay, flow rate. So what is mean by wastewater flow rate? Wastewater flow rate normally represented by cubic meters per day. Okay, you see, per day, one day you might not generate wastewater for 24 hours. So it is a tank, 一个桶. Okay, then you have wastewater coming in from many stream. Stream 1, stream 2, stream 3, anything. N stream. So these are the wastewater they generate. It contained in a tank, we call it as a collection sum. So these different stream of wastewater, when they contain in the different timing and different zoning and different quality, okay, somehow different temperature, when they mix together, actually some time dilution effect, okay, and TDS, total dissolved solid, salt, also dilution effect. So these are the wastewater collection. For example, A, they charge in 8 hours to 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 10 a.m. They are from stream A, they charge it with 24 cubic per day, and stream B, blah blah. This is more the industrial wastewater, just like your households as well. Some people flush toilet, some people don't flush, you see. So, but in our sewage system, we have collections from those poo, I mean those what you call that, those toilet bowl. Then you have underground system. So underground system, we talk about underground system, then you have a vacuum system or whatsoever, so it mixed together somehow with surface overflow. So surface overflow means rainwater overflow. So therefore the ground level network for this piping network is very important, and there are some very detailed study like what sulfate corrosions, that kind of stuff. Then people are specialized in doing this thing, and how to do the underground piping. So these are the wastewater that we collect in municipal plant. But for those industrial plants, you have washing with the hot water, washing the chemical. Now I'm talking about very practical stuff. Therefore, I'm not going to use any textbook, because it's all on my design and testing commissioning experience and installation as well that I would like to share. So when you look at wastewater segregation, I think the first thing first is to know that how to segregate the wastewater. You can see from other industrial wastewater textbook as well. Segregate wastewater is an art. It's very important. It's a science and art. Without a good segregation of wastewater, you will end up in a very, very bad treatment system, which you can't treat your wastewater, and secondly, you might have some hazardous consequences. For example, like semiconductor wastewater, so normally you have high fluoride, and then very pure water with a lot of TDS. This TDS means calcium, sodium and chloride probably and also some calcium, magnesium, and also that some silicon grinding. Silicon itself is a solid, and also that you have very randic pH like pH 2, pH 13. So these are wastewater you need to segregate. Probably you treat it differently, and you merge it during the discharge IC inspection chamber. Okay, so this is called wastewater segregation. Therefore, when you do wastewater treatment plant design, the first thing first for industrial or even municipal is to segregate the wastewater. So how does it do with your physical parameter like flow rate? Different segregation scheme had different uh, wastewater generated. Just for example, like power plant, you might have a lot of element exchanger resin. That when you have wastewater charging in, you do your regeneration, okay, that and also that the mid-speed regen, so you might end up with from different timing, different wastewater. So, but there were different temperature. For example, the condenser polisher, some people, them, I mean, like the blower blow down, but boiler blower normally is very small quantity. It's a hot water, so you might end up with hot temperature wastewater that coming. So how do you do that? You need to segregate them. Okay, but there are some plant like centralized wastewater treatment plant. For example, like from industrial A and B and C, like those Jurong Island one. There's one particular company I mean doing central wastewater treatment plant that to get the benefits from all the industries, you might mix it. You mix it, then those with high TDS mixed with low TDS. When they mix it, the wastewater become treatable, biotreatable, because why you have a lower TDS, and also the high temperature when you mix it, and with low temperature, okay, it definitely will cool down, so you know heat exchanger. So therefore, when you charge the client with this sort of wastewater, you charge higher. We call it enjoy dilution factors, this sort of crap. But normally we will look at the feature of the plant, then we decide what to do. Okay, of course the plant have to be designed correctly. I don't anyhow design, or and then anyhow like 高压补 or anything. Don't have, then you fix it. That is very bad. So when we do the wastewater treatment plant design, we have to do it properly with the flow rate. Flow rate is a very important parameter. For sewage treatment plant, we have annual average, maximum month, peak day, okay, peak hourly. These four normally we categorize these four flow rate. Okay, you from the name you know that some of the system you need to have a peak hour design and peak day design. Some like bioreactor normally is AA and MM. Okay, for those industrial wastewater we have similar scheme as well, but normally it will be very complicated, so we need to have a water balance diagram. So from this water balance diagram, you will know that, for example, like now, I need to do a recovery, water recovery. So I have a RO system. RO reject. You know, going to the sea, RO reject, the COD cannot be more than 100 ppm. But normally, you have high chloride, so your COD reading will be affected. So what do you do with that? You need to ask for waiver, but this our reject is high concentrated TDS, 150,000. Let's say that the incoming wastewater is about 500 TDS, so then your reject is 90%, let's say that. So then this stream itself is extremely saline, so very salty. So then you lose about this water, then you might need to do the ZLD. So these are all things is water balance diagram is very important in industrial wastewater treatment plant with water. So now we talk about water conservation, then we need to come up with first water balance. Like the power plant, how you treat your chemical waste, water balance. So these are the important factor that we need to cater for okay, water balance. For example, like those electrochlorination that I have introduced last time. When you do electrochlorination, you feed in with softened water. Okay, softened water. Then when you generate hypochlorite. So then what would be the reject line and things like that. Even though it's very small, you still need to account for that. See, so or else you become wastewater stream. You so these are things. So when water is so expensive nowadays, therefore when you do like new water, you might use new water or those high grade industrial water for dilution, cleaning, and blah blah. Like in Thailand, you might use the water for irrigation, so you need to have a water balance diagram. So this water balance diagram normally it go with continuous or batch. So continuous wastewater means that you continue process, but normal process in wastewater we call it batch. For example, like very classic is SPR or granularly sequencing batch reactor, or somehow you might have a membrane system. Membrane is not a total continuous process because you have relaxations and somehow you have cleaning process. So it's a semi-batch process. Then you account for the water quantity, especially in a big plant. You need to do this accounting. Okay. So this is how why flow rate is important. Flow rate. Okay. So flow rate tied with water balance, and then tied with segregation strategy. Okay, these are the things. So flow rate no longer is cubic meter per hours only. Somehow can be cubic meter per minute depending on the plant. But operate at how many hours in a day? So you might need to have something like the accounting papers. Operating time, hour in a day in a week, or a week in a year. So so how many weeks? For example, like some of the stream are very like shampoo, wastewater. Probably they do using some of the surfactants. They only discharge it once a year. So then the week you discharge it once a year. Then your wastewater actually is by year. So these are table you need to generate before you do the waste segregation strategy. Okay. Stream 1, stream 2, stream 3. So you can get from sort of textbook or some internet. You got some result or some factory that may disclose to you about the waste stream they generate. Some that may not. Okay, so normally they can come out from the lab, or some with a special chemical, how to deal with those wastewater. Some are just collection for disposal. So these are of accounting need to be done. Okay, you need hard work, you need experience as well. Okay, so to do these things and then to ensure that these are accountable because this affects a lot. Okay, this have to be right. If not, then don't do wastewater treatment. Okay, if you will surely fail. So secondly, the parameters is we call it as solid. Solid might not be a physical parameter. Okay, solid we call it a total suspended solid. You can look at my cup and any these are textbook, but the solid itself we can have super suspended solid or total dissolved solid. Dissolved solid here doesn't mean that it has to be inorganic. It can be organic as well. Called dissolved solid. Okay. For example, like COD, if amount to 60,000 like palm oil wastewater, you have oil and grease contained. Okay, the solid might be about 120,000 milligram per liter. With that total suspended solid about 20,000, then you have ended up with a lot of total solid. Okay, so that kind of scenario that we have to cater for. So what is the significance of total suspended solid? It had to be removed in the plant. any wastewater treatment plant the first thing to do normally is to remove solid. Some people even use filter press to remove solid I mean for wastewater, yeah, it can be done, but depending on applications somehow you might need to know that the charges of the solid to the filter press, or is it cheap or things like that. Some when doing the wastewater treatment plant design, you have to be very cautious with flow and quality. There's no fixed rule, but normally there are some rule of thumb and some guideline that you need to follow. And some design institute, or not design institute, sorry, those I mean country have certain regulation for certain unit operation design, retention time, things like you can use it as a reference, alpha, things like that. But normally you use it as a reference and you have to check it, because wastewater treatment plant design is very dynamic. It's not you like it then you do it it's not the same you have to do it scientifically. We need simulations or else you're bound to failure. So even though there's a design handbook, you can't really follow everything because those are empirical data. So the TDS itself, okay, if you talk about inorganic those inorganic TDS will affect the biological process. So for example, salt water in the sea, 20,000 milligram per liter, you definitely cannot use it to treat wastewater, biological wastewater, because the microorganism will die. Okay, unless you cultivate halophyte, which cannot be because halophyte is very difficult to cultivate. So and doing bio-augmentation as well, they kind of thing that you might spend a lot of money on bio-augmentation. It's all lab work and simulation with kinetic study. So you can see that how we do that. So these are biological system. Normally, you get TDS is very important. But some TDS are like iron. You can see red color there. Mag okay, hardness. These sort of thing is good to do because you'll foul your diffuser, or you foul you damage your pumps, the kind of stuff, or you have high chloride. Okay, so there are certain material that your pump or some metallic item like the boat and nut. Submerged in the tank like the boat, you cannot use normal material. Somehow you might consider temperature as well. You might use aluminum alloy. No, sorry, what is that called? In Cornell and then high chloride. Normally wouldn't encounter wastewater treatment plant unless you wastewater treatment plant have a lot of budget, which normally people will not waste money on this thing. Okay, to cast iron recoating will do, or the most is standard 316, or but for desal plant is normally is 329 or 317. I mean the kind of stuff. So okay, so this is TDS. TSS later we'll see that it's a physical parameter, but normally when you remove it, it's grit, some abrasive or non-abrasive sand, with the density. Then you use cyclone separators. Normally people use that. You can grit chambers, aerated grit chambers, or some condoms or hair. You have file course and file script which is available in the market. And this is the state of art of design. That thing is not so easy because somehow the strength and stress is very important, and entangling and how to compact this. There are some good screen in the market that you can explore around. Okay, and some retain the debris on the screen, very dirty. These are practical aspect. You might, and some they want what fast speed, slow speed. Okay, you can read some of the spec in the internet. Some consultant may publish some spec in the some tender document. Okay, we want to read it more. However, those are quite technical. So these are the screen that normally we use, and grid chamber as well. The teacup, called a teacup. Some vortex grid chambers. We don't have space. But really good chamber, some like Detroiter you consider organics and things like that. So depend on designer. Some people have very strong opinion on this thing, but you have to do some research. But normally people don't use Detroiter nowadays. So total solid you can have VSS and ISS. ISS is inorganic, VSS is volatile. Volatile means organic. But volatile doesn't mean that it's biodegradable. Some are non-biodegradable. Um, so ISS definitely is not biodegradable like bone and things like that. So these are the things that cannot be removed by biological process. This may or may not be for the VSS. So these are physical parameters that you need to take care now. Fluoride and TSS, but it can be chemical as well when you go with VSS. This can be chemical. If your TDS have some precipitant like barium, they can say normally they use sulfate or hydroxide to prevent, but in wastewater treatment we seldom encounter this thing because these are very silly. So like fluoride you use calcium chloride, you do, but when you do a sealing with the precipitations, is quite miserable, and copper hydroxide as well. So there are books mentioned that in econ vendors and other things, and probably you can look some chemical treatment books. Okay, there are a lot of good literature with the very good curve, but ultimately you still need to conduct lab tests calculating things like that. Okay, so this is wastewater treatment now. So we talk about physical parameter one, and I'll talk about parameter two later.